Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Calacino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Was a warm day today, almost balmy compared to what we've been having, but now the wind is kicked up, so I don't know what the temperature is doing, but I can hear the wind howling out there. So today I'm going to bring you some more Christmas cards and a potential Christmas gift, but just a way of demonstrating a product to you as well. All right, so I will turn the camera down and we will get started. Okay, not happy with the lighting tonight for whatever reason. I don't mind that we can see the ring light a little bit as long as it's not in the way, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem bright in here. Maybe I need another light. Okay, so this is me. Nope, this is me, but I don't see me. Let's see where I am. Just to make sure. There we go. So this is me, and I am Roberta Calacino, and the name of my business is 11 Lake Stamper. This group is 11 Lake Stamper Creatives. This is a group where I love for people to share what they're making with our products. And I also have a YouTube channel where my videos from here get put up usually within 48 hours. My computer is back, by the way. I don't know exactly what happened. I just decided not to make myself crazy. So I turned it off and just walked away from it. I was too busy. I had a craft show over the weekend and I just had a lot of things going on. And I just thought I just can't spend possibly 2 hours on the phone with tech support, so I just turned it off. And then yesterday morning, I think it is, just for the heck of it, I got myself a pencil and a piece of paper, and I got an external hard drive, and I got everything set up, and I was all ready to do whatever I had to do with tech support. And I turned the computer on, and it looked like kind of the way it used to look, so I had my fingers crossed, and when it started up, it was back to normal. There are a few odd things missing. So far, I haven't discovered anything important that's missing, and my understanding is this was just a big overhaul on the part of Microsoft, but I don't know that for a fact. So if you're having some weird problems with your computer, that might be the issue. I don't know, but I just turned it off and walked away for a couple of days, and I'm so happy to have it back. So, all right, so let me see, where was I? So YouTube, all right, and then you can purchase from me at shop at www.rcalacino.stampin'up.net, okay, and my email address, 11lakesstamper@gmail.com, and yeah, I think that's all you need to know for now. So I started out with one intention and then somehow got a little distracted and got into a different thing, but I wanted to use these two sets again, the Pine Tree Trimmings and the Ornamental Christmas, because I like them both a lot. They're similar in some ways in that they both contain Christmas trees, obviously, but there are 5 totally different Christmas trees between the two sets. This one has larger sentiments. They both have a star that you can cut out with a die, and they each have the die that goes with it. The Pine Tree. I just asked Siri to cancel all of my alarms, and he said he couldn't find any. Just shows you how much he knows. I think what's happening is it just keeps snoozing, so that's going to keep happening, unfortunately. Anyway, the die set is much smaller for Pine Tree Trimmings, and it does have the star that cuts that out. And then for the Ornamental Christmas, they really are less about the Christmas tree itself, although they do have one, no, I take it back. They have 2 Christmas tree dies, and they're about the ornaments, and we did play with those a little bit last week, so I didn't want to redo that. But my goal was to use this Christmas tree because it looked like fun, and I hadn't used it before, so that was kind of my goal. And then I don't know what the heck happened, but I ended up not using it, so I'll have to do another card on my own, just showing you what this tree looks like. So this time I used this one, and then I used a die from this one that's a little bit different. So, and I did a lot of heat embossing. So I've got my little, I have a large one of these, and this is the large one, and then I have a small rectangular one. And I think one came from Amazon and one came from Harbor Freight. I've also been told that they sell them at Ollie's, if you have an Ollie's near you, or shop there. But if you're an Amazon person and you like to just shop Amazon, I'm pretty sure that either the large one or the small one came from Amazon, and the other one came from Harbor Freight. Okay? So, I made a sample card, and I'll go ahead and show you the sample card. I don't always do that. And then I'll kind of explain some things that went right and a couple of things that maybe went wrong, and we'll move on to make another one. So for this one, I used Shaded Spruce ink, but I also used Shaded Spruce for the card base. And I did stamp and emboss another Christmas tree inside. So for the next one, what I decided to do, and I want to put this like right out here because I don't want to forget it. I tend to forget it, so that was one of the things that went wrong, but you know, who decides what's right and what's wrong, right? So I decided to use this Christmas tree, and I decided to use our Eyelet 3D embossing folder. And I'll be honest, we do have, there was an embossing folder from last year, the year before, called the Snowfall 3D embossing folder that looks like falling snow, but it has retired, and I try to use products that are current so you can get them if you'd like to. So I looked at this and I thought, you know, they kind of look like snowflakes. So I went with that. It's really supposed to be lace eyelet. And I embossed one sheet of that, and this time I went with a Whisper White, oh my gosh, we haven't had Whisper White in years, a basic white card base. And then I did go ahead and I stamped and die cut 3 of the trees, and you'll notice that this die is different from the others in that it really just cuts out a triangle type shape. It doesn't even attempt to cut around the branches or whatever. All right, so it's a little bit different in that sense. All right, and then I also used the embossing to emboss 3 stars in gold. All right, and what I did was I stamped and then embossed just a whole row of them so that I would have more if I messed up on the die cutting or if I just needed them for anything. You can always use a star. And so I used the star stamp, and for my sentiment I used Sending Christmas Wishes. And I'll probably use that again, although I was thinking of maybe something different. So I also brought in, and I wanted to show you this. This is a punch that is current in the annual catalog. It's called the Elegant Tag Topper Punch. I believe it's like either $23 or $25. And it only takes a 2-inch paper, so it's a little bit different from our pick-a-punches where you get your choice. However, what I decided I would show you tonight is that whether they've got the different width channels or not, you can still use this any way you want, all right? And you can use it in different ways as well. So what I did on my sample card was that I cut out the top of that, and then I put it through again, like this one here, only there just wasn't enough room for it there. So I cut off the bottom and just made it even with the other thing. And that was okay because you barely see it anyway because it's white on white. So I decided if I was going to use this again, I would edge it with some of the green just so that it would stand out a little bit more. That is something that you certainly can or can't do, entirely up to you. All right, and in a little while I'll demonstrate some of the things that we can do with this punch. Okay, so this is our typical card base. It is 8.5 by 4 and a quarter. No, 5 and a quarter. Yeah, 5.5. 8.5 by 5 and a quarter. 5.5. Good grief! Scored at 4 and a quarter. This is the typical card size that I make multiples of every week. So some days I can say it, and some days it just doesn't roll off the tongue. Now, when I'm using a darker background, like I did on the sample card, I like to make this your usual 4 by 5 and a quarter because I want to see some of that color because I like it. When I'm doing white on white like I am here, then I don't care so much. So in this case, instead of making this 4 by 5 and a quarter, I made it 4 1/8 by 5 5/8. Or is it 3/8? Maybe it's 3/8. So I just made it a tiny bit larger because I don't really care if we see a border or not. It just doesn't matter to me. Okay, so I can go ahead and glue that on. No, I can't. I'm sure I heard somebody screaming, "No, what were you going to do with that twine, Roberta?" because, oh, I hate it when you can't find the end and then you end up with a hot mess. It makes me crazy. That I should have figured out before you joined me, before I went on the air. I'm like really just not even seeing a viable end. And what happens when that happens is I end up making a hot mess of the thing, like I've done with my linen thread on a few occasions. If you see it, let me know. I mean, it should just be right on the end, but you know, that would be way too easy. Why do they make it so difficult? Why do they? I feel like it's just kind of right here looking at me, just laughing at me. I didn't open the other one either yet because I used the black one last week. Okay, well, you know, if I mess it up, I mess it up, right? What else can you do? I feel like it's just tucked under one of these rows, and there's something about it that should look different to make it stand out to me. And I almost feel like this might be it, but I'm not sure because it's not coming out. Oh, good grief. All right, well, either way, I'm going to need some help getting it unraveled, so let's see what I can find. If I give it a tug in a few places and I find the right spot, it'll come up, right? If not, I'm just going to mess it up. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's what happens when you mess it up. And then eventually you might find the actual end, but if not, then you've just botched it. Yeah, nope, I don't see one. So when that happens, we just make one and we deal with it. I'm just not going to worry about it. I can always find it later, and as annoying as it sounds, I can unravel the whole thing and then ravel it up again, ravel it up, roll it up again. Whatever. You would think by now I would have found it, right? Okay, so what I wanted to do was to wrap this around, like you've seen me do many times. Okay, and then also add a bow. So I think I'm going to wrap it. It goes again. It's going to do that like every 9 or 10 minutes. How's that for annoying? And I just have no way of shutting it off without possibly throwing myself off the air. Alrighty, so fabric scissors. So when I do this, I generally tape it to the back with 2 different ends. So now I'm making ends where there really aren't any ends, and that's okay. Yep. Good grief, good grief. Okay, let's try this again. So first of all, let's get the tape. I brought my tape dispenser someplace to wrap some Christmas presents last week, and I know I brought it home, but I don't know exactly where it is. Big surprise, right? Okay, so we're going to wrap it around. Yep, I can get away with 3 times. So we're going to wrap it around 3 times and then tape it again. I like my big tape dispenser because it only needs 1 hand, because it's one of those, you know, office ones that's weighted down. And I like it when it only requires 1 hand. Okay, so now we'll just zhuzh this out a little bit so that you can see all of the strings. All right, I can see I've got to bring myself a little bit closer again. Then we may have some shadows, but that's okay. Hello, Mimi. How are you? Mimi, you're from California, if I recall. Is that correct? What's the weather doing in California? I worry about California. I'm afraid it's going to disappear someday. I don't know. I worry about California. I have some friends that live there, but really not many. But even so, I worry about California. Okay, so now I can put this on. Now I can glue it. I have been having a lot of trouble with these glues, I think I told you last week, because I stopped using these bottles unless I was transferring them into the fine tip bottles. And so as a result of that, I think they've gotten kind of thick. And they're getting all cloggy. But with a little help from a pin, I usually get them going again. I wish they would sell these in larger bottles, or I wish they would have like a way to refill them, because that would just be nice. I'm just wiping my pin off on that so I don't waste the glue and leave something sticky laying around. There we go. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue under the twine as well, just to make sure that that kind of stays down and stays flat. And I'm putting a little bit more glue. I'm going a little bit heavier because of the embossing. Because the glue may not get onto all of the surfaces that it needs to get onto if I don't put it on heavy and then just do a little bit of pressing. Now I'm not putting it on so heavy that it's oozing out the sides, because that's kind of annoying when that happens. But just heavy enough so that I know it's going to get into the debossed side and that it's going to stay stuck. Okay, so now I'm really not sure if this sentiment is going to work or if it's still too big, and I have a feeling that it is, unless I do something different with my trees. But I want my trees to reach the top of the card, but not go over the top of the card. So, okay, I think it'll be fine, and then I'm going to kind of put that a little bit over that. So we'll have to pop that up on dimensionals. Now, it's still a little bit wide for the sentiment that I chose. And the other thing that I did was I tried making it narrower, and this was a little bit more fidgety, and I could do it, but now this is too narrow for my sentiment. So it's kind of like, you know, I could find another sentiment perhaps, but so let's put this on first, because then I'll know exactly where my trees need to go, and I won't goof that up. So the sentiment that I'm using, I'm going to use the same one I used in my sample. It says Sending Christmas Wishes. And what happened before with the other one too was that I stamped it too high up, and then I think I stamped it and then tried to cut it, and so I couldn't really tell where it needed to go. So with this, at least I know that I need to get it in the middle, if that makes sense, so it'll be a little bit balanced. And at first I thought I would put some type of an embellishment or something on the bottom, but then I just decided it wasn't going to fit, so I had to cut it off anyway. So this is Shaded Spruce. It's a really, really pretty color. All right, I am going to move it down so that I can see what I'm doing. Still certainly does not mean that I'm going to get it straight. There we go. That is not bad at all. And see, now it's at least it's in the middle, so it doesn't look so obvious that that's too big. Would you believe I went downstairs just for the purpose of getting my water and then came up without it because I got distracted. Okay. So we'll put this on first, and excuse my reach, we'll need some dimensionals. But, hang on, I really do have to kind of leave these here so I know how high up I can go. I'm going to put the stars on these as well, so I don't want, I mean, I can move the star lower down on that one. I think that would probably be okay. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so what I did with the other one, and I kind of like the way that looked, was I glued two of them on and then popped one up. Yeah, see, the glue is already clogging the tip, and that doesn't usually happen, at least not that often. Hello. There we go. No, there we go. Oh, good grief. Okay. Much better way to do it. I really do like these two sets. So my craft show on Saturday went very well, although I have to admit, and the same was true for my teammate who was there with me, we sold more things besides cards. I think the truth is people just do not understand about the time and the effort that it takes to make these cards. They're thinking they can go to the Dollar Tree and get them cheaper, and they don't quite get it, to be honest. So, and I can't tell you how many people looked through the cards and commented on how adorable they were and how cute they were. We were asking $4 a card, and I know people ask less sometimes, and I know people who ask more. I think a lot depends on your area and where you live, for sure. Where I live is kind of rural, and, not a lot of people have a lot of money. And that's a big thing right now, especially for people with the SNAP benefits being gone for a while, and not everybody's gotten theirs back yet, and they all got behind. So, and then of course it's the worst possible time of year for that to happen, right? Because they were hoping to buy Christmas presents, or maybe more Christmas presents than they got to buy. So, it is what it is. But we both brought up whatsoever, just things that I enjoy making. So we both did okay, and we shared a table. Not every event lets you share a table, but they did. So we shared a table, so that was nice. So we each only paid $15, and it was just a 4-hour show. I was really hoping it would be a tiny bit longer just to get a little bit more foot traffic, but it was only 4 hours. So for the amount of time and what we spent, we really did just fine. All right, and then I'm going to stick this one down a little bit, which is okay, because I wanted this one at a slightly different height. Okay, and then I just grabbed my regular tweezers here. And for that one, I'm going to glue it to the tree. Actually, it would be easier to just put a dot on the tree, I think. Dot on the tree is definitely easier. You don't have to be double jointed. I do like the white on white look for a lot of Christmas cards, and certainly for wedding cards and things like that. It's kind of elegant looking, even if the card itself isn't super elegant. In terms of the whatever the images are, although I think these are, and certainly having the stars gold embossed gives it a little bit more of an elegant touch. Get over there. There we go. I'm just going to give those another little 30 seconds of holding. And then I'm a little concerned with this kind of sticking up because I don't want it to get caught going into an envelope. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue like there. I don't know if that'll stick or not because it's under the twine, but we'll give it a shot. If you've used this glue, you know it's pretty darn strong. I think that's going to work. Sometimes I just put like an acrylic block on top of something to hold it down for a few seconds to let it dry. This one's a little awkward because of the twine underneath, but it'll still work, I think. And you can use the block to give it a good press too. Okay, so there we go. And then this one, I guess, let me see. I didn't stamp anything on the inside of this one, obviously, so let's see what we can do. So I'm thinking probably another Christmas tree, although I have to admit I did not make enough stars. But I will show you something. I think I showed some of these things last week. So And if I tell you the story behind it, you'll probably laugh and be nodding your head because you probably do it too. So a number of years ago, I bought these Sharpie paint markers, paint pens. And I got one in gold and one in silver and I think one in bronze. And I would use them on these cards, Stampin' Up! Cards for like if there was a car and I wanted to do like the hubcaps or the bumper or something that had to be metal, or I would use it for different things, okay? Then I put these away someplace and I forgot that I had them. So I got onto Amazon and I ordered these. Now this is a kind of a cool set because it comes with 4 white pens, and they're like the gel pens, 2 silver and 2 gold. So those are really cool. And then I put those away someplace and I forgot I bought those. So the other day on Amazon, I ordered these. This is a package of 3 and they're all gold. And these are made by Uniball Signo, so I knew they'd be good because all of their products are excellent. These seem to be working very well as well. The Sharpie pens in some cases were a little too thick. They had it's a bullet tip, but it's paint, and it came out kind of fast sometimes, so it wasn't good for everything. And you had to shake it, and do all that stuff to get it going. So here's what I'm going to say about this. I'm going to say that since I didn't make enough stars, and maybe you don't have star dies, and maybe you don't have, so I should show you this too. So I also bought this Delicata Gold ink, and I got the re-inker actually came today, like a week after the pad came. Stampin' Up! Used to have a Delicata, bronze, I think it was bronze, something like that. And it was really nice, and I liked it a lot. I liked the way it's stamped. I wasn't too impressed with the way this one's stamped, and I thought maybe it's a little dried out, so I'll have to take a chance and take a minute, and I'll have to ink it up to see if that will make things better. So at the moment, I have all kinds of gold options because I forgot that I had those and continued buying more. Who knows, there's probably more someplace else too. All right, so I'm taking the shaded spruce ink. And I tell people, don't just go from here to here. Take a look at that stamp, because if it's not inked up properly, you'll notice. And if it's not inked up properly, then you don't want to use it just yet. So always look at it before you stamp. And then take a minute. It's not like you're not stamping a bill paid or something. Take a minute, line it up, look at it. I'm not in the best position to do this right now because I'm sort of to the left of the card. Okay, there you go. Pretty good. And then sometimes I do take a minute to go ahead and clean the stamp, because the next thing you know, I'm putting something on top of it. Maybe I'm putting the envelope on top of it. So it's better to take a minute and clean it. This is our chamois. I think they cost like $10. I think they were like $8 or $9 maybe when they first came out. I wash them with Dial antibacterial soap. People say that theirs get moldy and they smell bad, and that has never happened to me. This is one of my original chamois. That has absolutely never happened, but I've always washed it with the antibacterial soap. That just sort of seemed like a good idea. Okay, so while this star is not going to look exactly like the one out there, I should probably check this out on something and make sure that it's working, because I haven't used this one yet. Yeah, so you see it started working right away, and it works really nicely. So I'm just going to do what I call the teacher star, and then fill it in. It's a good way to get the 5 points. So there you go. And if I wanted to make it fatter or bigger, I could, but I find when I do that, when I try to change it, sometimes I muck it up. So I'm better off just leaving it alone. And then it does take a minute or so to dry. I don't know if you can catch that, but it's definitely still damp. All right, so I'm going to put that up there. So there's our card. And I do think it's quite elegant. I like it. I'm very happy with it. Okay, so that's card number 1. And then card number 2, I think I can put this away now, is where I did some more embossing. I did not make a sample of this card. This card, I'm really trying to remember, because I was inspired by someone for this card. Oh, and it would be nice if I could remember who. All right, well, I'll have to see if I can post it, because I certainly did make mine similar. All right, so this is our embossing additions kit, and it's really nice because it gives you a bigger space to do your embossing, your mess making on, I guess I should say. And then you can pour it back into the jar using this little nozzle. It's very similar to a beading dish, if any of you have ever done any beading. And it comes with these really good reverse tweezers that are also like Teflon here, so you're not going to melt them and they're not going to get hot. So if I'm holding my tweezers, like these metal tweezers, and doing embossing, these tweezers are going to get hot. And then if I touch it, I'm going to burn myself and say, ouch, or maybe something else. All right, so we'll hang on to that till we need it. So for this one, I used that die that I showed you a couple of minutes ago, and I just cut out a piece of it in an as-is sort of thing. But then I took, and where did I put them already? Oh, here we go. I had seen these, and I thought, these are kind of cool. I really like the look of these little swooshy lines. And I saw them initially as a set of lines inside one of these ornaments. Okay, and they were embossed in gold or silver, I don't remember. But I really liked them, and I wanted to do something with them and some embossing as well. So when I first saw this card that I used for inspiration, my thought was that these swooshes were behind the tree, and then when I looked more closely, the swooshes went across the tree, so they actually almost looked like garland on the tree, but they went beyond the tree as well. And I wasn't sure how I liked that. I also wasn't sure because sometimes when you're stamping on something that has a layer, it doesn't stamp very well. So the only thing I could think of is that maybe they used, well, maybe they're a better stamper than I am, or maybe they used the Stamparatus and did it first without the tree and then with the tree. I'm just not sure because I still don't know how they would get that totally lined up like that. So I'm just not too sure about that, whether I want to have it just on the tree, but if I don't have it behind the tree, I think it's going to be way too plain. So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try and just see, we'll see what happens, all right? What else, what can you do, right? What's the worst thing that can happen is that nothing. But I feel like I have to glue this down unless, wait a minute, I may be overthinking this. What if they actually did them both separately, totally separately? That could be it. Let's try it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this down. Let's move some things so you can see what the heck I'm doing here. Hang on, hang on. All right, so the first thing we're going to need is our embossing buddy. That's the other thing I like about this kit is that I can keep all of this stuff in one place, and I'm not forgetting the embossing buddy, which I used to always forget. So let's see if this even makes sense. I think it does. I don't know. We shall see. But it also looks like, well, I don't know. Maybe. So I'm just going to go once. Now this may be hard for you to see because I'm using the Versamark watermark ink. And then I'm going to go in a different direction because I think it'll be more interesting that way. Maybe not. I don't know. And then I'm going to go like that. Okay, then I'm going to cover this ink pad up. And I'm going to get that stamp out of the way. This may be a total fail, but you know, we'll find out, right? We'll learn together. Okay, so what I need to do now is pick that up and try not to touch any of the places. We know where there's almost no ink is right up at the very, very top. Okay. So because those are reverse tweezers, they're closed when I'm not touching them, okay? So I don't have to squeeze them to hold them closed. I squeeze them to open them. So that's kind of cool. All right, so I'm going to pour that on there, and it doesn't really matter if I pour a lot or not because it's all going to come out fairly easily. I just realized I have the overhead fan on, though. I just saw some of it sort of blowing. I know, some people just dump out the whole jar. I just feel like that makes me nervous. Okay, and then I'm going to tip it, and I'm going to tap it. I really can't get in there with the brush and get anything that's not where it's supposed to be. I just don't see how that would work. I'm going to put this way the heck out of the way. All right, and I should put the top back on this. before we have a disaster. The other thing that I sometimes do is I take it over to my garbage can and I just give it a little tap on the side of the garbage can to get off any more loose stuff. Okay, let's see if this works. All right, I tend to heat up the back first while I take the time to get the heat tool warmed up. So I just go on the back a little bit first. And then I just kind of keep moving along. And you can see, well, I honestly don't know if you can or not, what I call the magic happening. And as soon as I see that it's happened, and I know that that area is embossed, then I move on to the next area. And then when I think I'm done, I hold it over the back one more time, and go over the front one more time, kind of briefly. I guess it is possible to burn the embossing powder, although I've never done that. Okay, so now we've got this. And so now my thought was, could I... Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not sure. The other thing is I'm not 100% sure that it's going to matter. So if I get everything out and do it again... See, I was thinking, could I get it to line up? But maybe it doesn't have to line up. I don't know. So this one, I think... I went down... Hang on. Gotta figure out where I want it. Okay. So I did that one going in that direction, and then I turned it around. It's very hard to even see where I am, but that's all right. I'm thinking maybe it just won't matter. Okay. That out of the way, and now pick that up and get my tray back. You need 3 hands to do this, I'm telling you, that's the problem. You need 3 hands. Okay, and now I'm just going to, I'm really going to have to kind of dump it because I can hardly see myself where it is. Let's see. Someone forgot to tell me to use the embossing buddy. And I didn't, so this could be bad, depending on how much static we've got going on here. All right, so we have a lot of stuff where it doesn't belong. So this is, take a look, because that's what the embossing buddy prevents. But a lot of it is like over here on the edges, so I can get it off. I want to get a better grip on this. There we go. The stuff that's in the middle, I can't do anything about, I don't think. I also tell people that while this brush is great, and it's also great for helping you get that stuff out of there, a smaller brush and even like a pointed brush might be helpful. Luckily, I usually have a couple of brushes nearby. So something a little bit smaller, and this is kind of soft. This might help me. Otherwise, this might just be a hot mess. We'll see. All right, I'm going to hold it with my hands now because I can't get a good grip on it. But you do have to kind of take your time, because all of this will get embossed even though there isn't any of the Versamark ink there, just because it's got, like, you know, some whatever oils for my hands on there, you know, anything, lotion that I might have had on my hands. Okay, I don't think this will be too bad. And the tree's going to be in there somewhere too, so it should be okay. Then I'm going to go back to this one to get these edges cleaned off. The other thing I'd point out to you is that I've told people before that in the wintertime, I have a dehumidifier going in my room for doing that, but excuse me. This is why I need my water. Okay. And I'm going to also give it a little tap over the garbage can, get a little extra off there, and we'll see what happens. And a heat gun, for those of you who might not know, is nothing like a hair blow dryer. It doesn't blow as much, and it's much, much hotter. So that's why the tweezers are a really good idea. The other thing about flipping it over is that the heat tends to curl your paper a little bit. So if you want it to lay flat, it's a good idea to do both sides. So that's kind of a hot mess. And you're going to be able to see some of it. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know how much it all bothers me. And I'm seeing now right where those lines are, and I really can kind of line these up pretty well. I honestly can, so I think I'm okay with all of this. I think it's good. Just checking to make sure it really is all embossed, and it is. All right, so I'm going to glue that down directly. Part of me wants to bring it up, but if I want to try to line it up, then I think I need to put it down flat. So, and where it maybe doesn't line up perfectly, I don't think it matters at all. I don't think anybody would even notice that. Okay. I'm liking that. So here's where I wanted to show you something else that you could do. So I started out cutting this strip at 3/4 of an inch. And when I put it in here, what I did was I kept it upside down so that I could see what I was looking at. So I put it through and I kept it upside down and then I punched it. But at 3/4 of an inch, it caught these two holes on the side and just gave me half of each one. And that wasn't very attractive looking. So I cut it down, and now it is more like 3/5 of an inch. I would say 3/5 of an inch. Okay, so that's another look that you can get with using this. And yet this is called a tag topper punch because its original intention was to make tags. All right, but obviously it can also make labels. So how cool is that? Okay, now I'm going to need to use a fair amount of glue to glue this down because of the fact that it's wrinkled from the heat. So we'll get that down, and again, I could put a block or something on top of it, but I don't think I'll have to. But I'm going to go a little heavier with the glue. I'm going to make sure I get in the corners, especially because corners can come up. I don't want it oozing out when I press it on, but I want it to stay put. So, and another thing that you can do, once you've got it straightened out in the way you want it, besides just pressing it down, is you can take your bone folder, instead of just using your hand, and you won't hurt this embossing because that's hard now. It's hardened. It's like an enamel at this point. And just kind of go all the way around. Now, if you had put on the glue too heavy, it would start oozing out. But I guess I didn't because it's not. All right, and then if I see that there are any spots where it might be coming up, I think I showed you this trick last week, I just take any old little piece of cardstock or paper that's sitting on my desk and I tear it off and I put a little glue on it and then I stick it under wherever it's sticking up and then pull it out. And it's a perfect way to get something glued down if you missed a spot. Right, but so far I think this is going to be just fine the way it is. Okay, so there's that. And now there's a couple of different things I could do. So someplace around here I have some gold sequins, but I haven't been able to find them. Another big surprise for you, right, that I couldn't find something. So I could get out the gold pen again, but I'd have to find it. It's right in front of me, right? But yet Oh, it's in this thing here. Okay. So I could get out the gold pen again. I could also use something like our, where are they? The enamel dots. I had them this morning. Here we go. All right, I could use these. They take a little bit of time to dry though, so like 20 minutes or so. Some people really like them, some people don't. They don't come out looking perfect. They don't come out all exactly the same size and shape. So I could just go around with my pen and do that. I could emboss another star, but I'm going to be a little bit lazy and just put a star up on top, but make it a little bit bigger, maybe, than my last star. And then again, maybe not. See, like I said, when you try to fix it or make it bigger, then sometimes it doesn't go well. There we go. And it does have a bit of a texture to it, so you've got to kind of smooth it out and be careful with it. Okay, and then I could do anything here for ornaments if I didn't want to use those, and if I couldn't find my gold sequins. I think I used some of these last week too. Well, I don't want to add red to the mix though, I don't think. So I think last week I used some of these, and these are carried over to the new catalog. So they're called adhesive backed sparkle gems, and I could put those around as well. The only thing with these is that they do have some dimension. So I'm not telling you that you can't use them on a card that you're going to mail, but what I do is I either take I buy some cheap cardstock sometimes, like some just really cheap white cardstock from Walmart. I'll take it and maybe fold it in half or put 2 thicknesses, and I'll put it on top of my card and then slide it in the envelope, because otherwise some of these things that have some dimension can poke holes in your envelope when they're going through the machine. And if you don't want to pay, you know what might look cool? They have, some of these are like a blackish color, and I'm thinking it might look cool to have a mixture of both. I think they'd stand out more. When they put it through the machine, it can cause some problems, but if you want it to be what they call non-machinable, you have to pay more, of course, to have it not go through the rollers, because then it's sort of being hand sorted. I like the black. I like the touch. I like the contrast there. So I'm just kind of sort of zigzagging. Nope, I got it. Zigzagging back and forth. So I'm obviously using quite a few of these, but you know, sometimes I hoard my embellishments, and you know what happens? Nothing. What happens is that a year later I find them, and they're already retired, and here I am with them. Okay, and then maybe, well, there are kind of clear ones too, but I don't know that I want to change it up and add those. So I'm just going to add 2 more kind of in the center there. They are kind of all on one side or all on the other. Wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but I thought it was going okay. Anyway, I do like the contrast to have the black in there. And these are kind of cool. Saw some of the embellishments that I was using in class in the catalog and didn't think they looked great in the catalog, and so she didn't buy them. But when she saw them in person, she really liked them. So these, and I don't know if there's any way for you to see this, but they're not just black or gold or clear. It's almost like they have embedded glitter in them. And they have a really nice shine to them, but there's no way that you're going to see that in the catalog or on this camera. So take my word for it. They're very, very pretty. They really are. So this card, again, is kind of plain in a way. It's simple. It's got a lot of white around the area, which I don't mind at all. I used the sentiment, "Oh, Christmas Tree," and then I used the Elegant Edge Tag Topper Punch. That's a mouthful, huh? All right, and then, let's see, what did I do? If I don't put the dimensionals right back where they came from when I'm done using them, then it's like, okay, then I can't find them. So like I said, this is no longer 3/4 of an inch because I cut it down, so it's a little bit narrower, and that works just fine for me. All right, and then the inside is, you know, something where you could put another Christmas tree, you could put Merry Christmas, or you could just leave it for yourself to have lots of room to write. That topic also came up as well, I think either in class or maybe it was at the craft show. The topic of how much room do you really want to write? Because some people, you haven't seen them for a while. You really want to write them a small book. You want to say all kinds of things to them. And then there are other people that are more like acquaintances or people from work, and you just want to say Merry Christmas and sign your name. You know, you don't want to write a whole book. But if you've got this whole expansive space here, and you just write to Debbie from Susie, it looks kind of bare. So that's why sometimes I make the liners smaller. You could do that. Or like I said, just stamp something on the inside, even if it's just little stars or little bubbles or whatever, just something. All right, so that's the second card. I'm so afraid that if I don't put this away or take care of it, I'm going to tip it over. And then I'm going to show you some things that you can do with that punch. And some of you may have tag topper punches at home because we very often do have them. I feel like the last couple of years we didn't have one until this new annual catalog came out. Okay, so you're tipping it upside down and it's going back into the thing. And this is where it gets tricky because I'm now paying attention to where I'm brushing, but maybe I'm not paying as close attention to where the nozzle or whatever you want to call it is. So maybe I'm no longer in the jar and I'm just dumping this on my desk or who knows where. So it does require a little bit of concentration, and you're going to lose some no matter what you do. Some of it pools up right here, and if you pay attention you can get that out. But no matter what you do, you're going to lose some. There's just no way to get it all in there because some is going to stick to the brush, some is going to stick to this, and you're going to have to kind of tap that all out over your waste paper basket. It's just the reality. But I'm telling you, a jar this size, unless you do a ton of embossing, whoopsie, now I just totally missed the jar there. All right, because now I'm just going to go over to my garbage can and give it a tap off. And every once in a while I do wash it. Because if I'm embossing something in white, except maybe during Christmas when we all feel jolly and we don't care, when I'm embossing something during Christmas, I don't want, or if I'm embossing something with white, I don't want gold mixed in with it. Maybe I won't care. Maybe some people won't care. So we're now using the Wow powder, and I do have some Stampin' Up! Powder left, which is fine to use. However, it does, I found this out, I heard someone saying it once, and I wasn't sure if I believed it, but it's true. It gets old. I mean, if you've had your embossing powder from Stampin' Up! For 15 years, it's not going to work as well as it did when you first got it. So these are the metallics, and they come with a metallic gold, a metallic silver, and a metallic copper. And then we also have the other set, which I don't know where it is at the moment, but it's black, white, and something, right? It's got to be black, white, and something. Yeah, I don't see it. It must be someplace else. But those are the two sets that you can buy, and those are in the annual catalog as well. All right, so we're done playing with messy stuff. So let's bring the punch back out already. So you saw today how I used it in two different ways. Not in any way making a tag, okay, but using it to make a label, so it's very versatile. You can use them forever. And then I'm just going to show you some of the things that I did for my craft sale, too. So I love using the blending brushes. You've probably seen me use those before. And sometimes I just grab like 3 colors, sometimes 4 colors, and I just start blending on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of basic white cardstock. Sometimes it's very light like this one, and sometimes I go darker and use some different colors. This time I think I threw in a little bit of gray, so I think I had 4 colors in here altogether. This was really just, actually I think this was 3 colors. I think it was Petal Pink and Bubble Bath, and then I want to say Sky Blue, but that's not what it's called. But you know what I mean. Light blue, okay? So this would be a really good way to make a bookmark for somebody. So I've cut this, since this opening is 2 inches, I cut this like a 32nd of an inch, just slightly smaller than 2 inches, so it slides in easily without bending. Now, when you're doing something like this and it's the exact size, it's really hard to get it wrong and get it crooked. If you're looking for something smaller to go in there, you're going to want to turn it over and look at it and make sure it's really lined up right. Okay, in this case, it's really, you kind of can't get it wrong. So I press down with 2 hands. This is what comes out, and then this is the result. All right, so just in itself, it's really a lovely bookmark. It's not the kind of bookmark that you could stick some ribbon through. We have had tag topper punches that have like a little hole in them so that a ribbon can go through. This one really doesn't, but they don't all have to have a ribbon, but I'll show you what I did. Now, I came up with two ideas. One was to use this in the Textured Notes, which is a current stamp set. The other one is the image, the floral image from Spotlight on Nature, but I don't know where that stamp set is at the moment. I take things out of the house to use them to the art gallery or to friends' houses or to a craft group or whatever, and then they end up in a bag someplace. Most of my life is in a bag someplace. This one is an older set. I forget the name of it now, but it's one of my favorite images, so I used it on these bookmarks that I made. Now again, since this is a kind of a larger image, I'm going to turn the ink pad upside down. And the advantage to doing this too is that you can really see if you are getting enough ink. I think I recently re-inked this, so it's ultra juicy. All right, and this is just the Memento black ink in a Stampin' Up! Blank stamp pad. That looks like almost a little too juicy to me, but I'm just going to go for it because we're just kind of playing here. All right, so I just stamped this onto the bookmark. Look at that. Oh, that's why I like it so much. It just stamps beautifully. That's what I love about the red rubber stamps. And I'm not saying that the photopolymer don't, but there's just something a little bit different, a little bit more detailed about the red rubber stamps. So that's just a bookmark. And if you're giving someone a book for Christmas, or if you're giving someone a bunch of gift cards to Barnes & Noble or something like that, this would be a really nice thing to put on it. And you could stamp a sentiment or write a little note on the back too, which would make it personalized. And every time they use this bookmark, they would think of you and remember when you gave it to them, which is really kind of nice. Okay, so that's just, kind of one idea for what you could do. Here's another one, but this is a different color, and this one's really longer, but if your friends buy hardcover books, or if you buy hardcover books, they tend to be taller, obviously, than some other books. All right, there's also nothing that says that you can't do this on both ends. All right, why not? There's no rule that says you can't do that on both ends. And maybe you could, that's just driving me nuts. My deepest apologies about that. Maybe you could find something long to put on there, like some type of greenery that went across the whole thing. And maybe you could actually make it green, instead of making it... I don't know that I'd want to use the shaded spruce, though. I don't know why. I like it, but I don't think I want it for that. You could also do some die cutting and glue some die cuts down on that. So again, these are things that make really nice gifts for people. I feel like I want something like Old Olive or Garden Green, maybe Old Olive because of how muted those colors are. And Old Olive is kind of a muted color too. There we go. All right, I'm going to put that out of the way because it's got ink all over it and I don't want it touching anything. And we'll just borrow this block. Now I have used this with StazOn ink, and StazOn is a permanent alcohol-based or solvent-based ink, so it does stain. And, that's just what it is. So it's stained, but it's not dirty. It's not a problem. All right, I had a scrap piece of paper out here, didn't I? That will work. So what if I put it down and just using the Old Olive, I just kind of keep going across the bottom. I can make some of them darker than others. I can do some stamping off maybe, or just not stamp up so much. Yeah, that's fine the way it is. And maybe you could think of something to put over that in black, like sometimes you can find a really nice, a sentiment that's kind of almost like a quote or, something inspirational or whatever. That would be kind of a cool idea for a bookmark. And then, like I said, they could just be used as a label besides just a tag. All right, so these certainly could be a tag though, and you could probably put some thin ribbon through that, or what you could do is you could, I wish I had some other samples here. What have I got? Well, I do have some of this ribbon. So what if I were to take some of this ribbon, and I'm going to cut off like a fairly long length of it. And what if I cut that in half and maybe cut it in half again, or maybe not, just fold it in half. Okay, and then I've got my, I know just where it is too. What do you know? Got my little, this is a Tim Holtz tiny attacher. Stampin' Up! Used to make a stapler like this, and I wish they would again. For all I know, the same company made theirs, because at one time they had quite the partnership with Sizzix and some of those other brands that Tim Holtz is associated with. So who knows, maybe it was the same company that made it for us. But I really do like it. It's a little tiny stapler, and there are times when I honestly don't mind a staple going through things. I kind of even like the way it looks. So instead of running it through the hole, because there is no hole big enough, if you get the stapler lined up just right, but I want the nicer part of the stapler on the front. That's what I'm trying to get at here. But I want to sort of see what I'm doing too, because I'm hoping to only have to staple once. And I think I succeeded. All right, there we go. And I could put a little glue under there maybe, just to be sure that it stays. All right, I want to put that right back where it was so I know where it is the next time. And then I'm just going to trim a couple of these off, just kind of going in different directions. And now you do have a bookmark that has a ribbon, and that's a nice touch. All right, so that's another way that you can use it. And like I said, certainly use it as a label. Use it as a tag topper. In other words, take something like even a piece this small, and for this I'm going to have to kind of shake it down so that I really have lost it, so to speak. And then I can shake it with my hands. I can use a pair of tweezers. I can take your pick tool and move it over. Basically, I want to get it lined up so that it's about the same. I can take the tweezers and just give it a little shove to that side till it looks even, and then give it a punch, and then shake it out again. And actually, that's kind of short. But so this could be a tag that just says, to Mom from whoever. All right, that you could stick onto a present. And you could do this using Christmassy colors. You could even do this using Christmas Designer Series paper, and then just do your marking in maybe a paint marker or something like that, so that it would show through it. So there's a lot that you can do with a punch like this. You can also use this for if you're packaging up some things for people. Let's say one of the things that I used to sell a lot at school, believe it or not, when my students and I would make crafts, people will spend money on their children, their grandchildren, and their dogs before they'll spend money on themselves. Am I right? So we used to sell dog treats or cat treats or different things like that. Okay, and then and I used to, if Stampin' Up! Had some good, pet stamps out, I would use those. If they didn't, sometimes I made up things on my computer. Sometimes I would even make up like a little thing that said, "To my favorite fur baby," and it would be a present that you would give to, your dog or someone else's dog. And normally I would use my scoreboard on that. And then this gets put over, so I don't know if I have anything out here that would kind of fit the bill, but let's just pretend it's the right size. So you have something like this, and these are your dog treats, and you put that over the top. All right, and you put your sentiment on there, or you stamp a paw print on there, or whatever. And then you've got that, and it's something you could either give away or something you could sell at a craft show. We used to sell a lot of these things with dog treats in them because, like I said, people will spend money on their fur babies. They will. So that's just one more thing that you can do with that. All right, so keep that in mind. It's not just for tags. There's lots of other things that you can do with it, and it's really a very cool tool to have. All right, so I think we are done. So we've got that, and that really is kind of what they would call a tag topper. And then we've got 2 of our bookmarks. And, oh, the other thing is that I had some of this. So this is vellum that I just dabbed on Gorgeous Grape, I think, ink and alcohol, and it just blends like that. Okay, so I used my alcohol markers and then sprayed it. At Walgreens. At Walgreens, they have like a 97% rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. So it's perfect. You don't have to make a mess. You still make a little bit of a mess, but you don't have to dab into it with Q-tips or whatever. You can literally just spray it, and this is what happens when you do that. And so that would make another really beautiful, whether it's a bookmark or a tag, because you could write on this with a Sharpie marker. You would have to write on vellum, with something that was more alcohol-based or permanent marker, and that could be a bookmark, or it could be something that goes on a gift. I don't know. It could be whatever you want it to be. All right, so then our cards. Excuse my arm again. So we have this card, which I really just am liking a lot, and so glad that I decided to use the shaded spruce. So we've got that. And then we've got this. And I like them both. This one I would have liked better if I'd remembered to use the embossing buddy. And this is just a really good way for you to see the embossing buddy. Like, it's not just some hype. It's a real thing. You really should use it. All right. But to me, it just now looks like there's some gold dust floating around. And so for this particular card, I think that's just fine. All right, so thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again 1 week from today. Actually, I might see you sooner. I normally do a 12 Days of Christmas, which I used to start really late in December rather, and then it occurred to me that I was showing people things too late. People started making Christmas stuff in July and August. So a lot of Stampin' Up! Demonstrators have already started theirs. I've just been a little bit too busy, and I'm going to go through some of the previous 12 Days of Christmas, because those were the videos that were lost. I think 2024 and maybe one other year were the only 2 that survived and were not taken down and deleted by Facebook. So I may redo some of them just because they're kind of cool and people, new people are coming on, and I've got some new things as well. All right, and at some point I'm going to do a video strictly to show you some tips and tricks for using punches, but some of them could apply to the dies as well, because I think there are so many different things you can do with them that people might not even be thinking of. Thank you again so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. We'll leave it at that. I'll see you soon. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, whatever you're doing. Happy cooking, happy eating, whatever you're doing. If you're traveling, be safe, and I'll see you soon.